Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sean Carey, and I'm with my co-host.
Dr. Bill Moss.
And we're with the Evolving Practice podcast, and we're so excited because we have an amazing guest. Her name is Dr. Darcy White, and Dr. Darcy is a network chiropractor, which is a really cool technique that we're going to learn more about. And we also know her through the Modern Mystery School. So we've gone to have a few interactions, but not a ton, and I'm excited to learn a lot more about you. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really looking forward to contributing to your awesome podcast. Seems like you guys have a lot of cool guests, and so I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of taken off on a whole new life of its own as time's gone on.
Totally.
Yeah, and you're kind of like a similar archetype, if you will, to us. So it'll be fun to have you on as a guest, kind of, giving another perspective of what it's like to do some energy work. What's it like to do chiropractic that somewhat looks like energy work, right? We're going to get into network. And I know Sean and I have had very, great experiences with network chiropractic. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how'd you get into the healing arts or the healing work?
Yeah. So I always knew that I wanted to help people. Like, I don't know. I remember being like a kid, and like my mom is a nurse, and so she would work long hours, and I would just like hold her feet with like loving energy, like, "Oh, get better, mom." I had no idea of anything about like energy healing or Reiki. Like, I mean, YouTube was like in its infancy, so there was really nothing out there to really publicize that kind of work. Um, but I always knew I wanted to help people. And so I noticed as I navigated, I guess just exploring my purpose in life really with like going through the whole like educational system. I was just like, okay, what do I want to do? Like my parents were very, I guess like they wanted their kids and my like to do something with their life. So like my dad is like, okay, it's either college or the military. And I'm like, kind of already did the military thing growing up with the captain, so I didn't really want to redo that. And I always had an interest in science, and so I thought I wanted to go into like wet lab research kind of things. And so I did really well in school, and then got into Cal Berkeley, and was like so excited about it. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do like all these wet lab researches, biochemistry, whatever. Like I was just so excited to explore it all. Um, and then I just kind of got a little disillusioned with the ivory tower, to be honest. Like I was just like, oh wow, like this is how the sausage is made. Like this is kind of like intense. And also just kind of made me lose interest in like what my initial curiosity was, because things got super they just got very like black and white, I guess. And so I decided that I was going to do something different, also in the midst of having like a mental health healing crisis of my own. Like I was like, okay, like I've achieved all these things. Like I was like, okay, top of my class in high school. I got into one of the best universities in the world. And I was just like struggling on the inside. I was like, okay, like I really need to shift something. Um, and so in the midst of that, I just was really starting to like reflect on things that I haven't necessarily been aware of in my own life. And found like support through like talk therapy, and got clear about how my orientation of achieving, like I neglected so many aspects of myself, so many aspects of my soul that really felt starved. And so I really started to seek help and healing. And in that, I ended up going to a chiropractor's office actually. And that happened because what happened? I was so stressed. It was like my fourth year in undergrad. I had I had to declare a major, otherwise I couldn't register for classes. And I was like, crap, I really am not enjoying these sciences. Like people are like erasing people's test answers and stuff to like set the curve. It was like so insane. I was like, I'm not really into this. I'm not really into all the units. I'm not into the demand. I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing. Um, and then I decided to make my minor my major, which was like in the arts, was like African American studies. Um, with the idea of, okay, I did all my prereqs for medicine because I was considering medical school.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe if I just do this swap, I can A, boost my GPA achievement, and then B, like take a little bit of a breather because I'm assuming there's more science classes in medical school. Just a hunch. And so in doing that, I found I was like, cool, I have like space and time to like get a better sense of who I am outside of like this achiever. And also, yes, I was seeing a chiropractor because I was losing my hearing actually, which is funny because I think what the Harvey Lillard, like the first chiropractic adjustment, he like got his hearing back. But I was losing my hearing, and at the time, I definitely like thought like I guess self-medication. I was like partying a lot, and I was like, okay, I didn't go to that many concerts. Like, why is my hearing like not working? So I had an adjustment, and I was like, cool, I could hear again, and like I could sleep. Like I wasn't sleeping because I had so much tension in my upper cervicals. I was like so stressed about so many things, and then reconnecting to my body in that way just made me think about I guess that little girl who wanted to like hold her mom's feet and help her heal and feel better. I was like, oh, cool. Like there's another way to help people that doesn't involve like medicine. Because I was never really interested in medicine. Like it just was like one of those like grandiose things to aspire to, like doctor, lawyer, all that. And so I really started to reflect, like, is this really for me? Like, am I really passionate about this? And I kind of got clear that I wasn't, and that was a process in its own sense. The chiropractor who I saw, she, what did she? She invited me to a seminar. Actually, she asked me because she knew I was a senior at Cal. She was like walking distance from the school, so that was nice. I just walked to her office, get adjusted. And so she'd asked me, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do when you're done? I was like, I don't know, I guess go to medical school. And she was like, oh, why do you want to do that? And I was like, I want to help people. And she was like, oh, how are you going to help people with a medical degree? And I was like, I don't know, I guess.
She had you in a trap.
She really did. She was really like, I mean, like at the time I was kind of a little like, okay, why is she coming for me right now? I just shared like an aspiration, but in hindsight, like those are really great questions, like I feel like with like youth, there's just like the like we want to do things, but we never really get to the why too much, at least in my experience. And so she so once I said, oh, I guess drugs and surgery is how I help people, and she was like, well, what if you could help people without drugs or surgery? And I was like, okay, like say more. She was like, you ever thought about becoming a chiropractor? And I was like, maybe, I don't know. She invited me to a seminar, and at that seminar, it was really cool because I started to see the interconnectedness of the nervous system. And also I was like, cool, I don't need to do a post-bac. Cool. I like can like just complete this degree and just go straight into learning this other skill. And so I really like applied to it was Life West. So the seminar was at Life West, which is a chiropractic school in Hayward. Yeah. And I went to the seminar, and then literally the next day I applied to the college because I was like, oh, well, here we go.
That's funny. I have such a similar story and like timing on it. My undergrad, I developed like debilitating panic attacks, anxiety and stuff that actually I got thrown through the medical system, but it was right before I was starting student teaching. And then I did teach for a couple of years, but I basically found a chiropractor too, who just like kind of asked me like, did you ever consider doing this? Like same type of question. I'm like, do they teach this? Like, do they teach chiropractors? Because I'm not asking people these questions. But it was enough for me to like go let it rattle around in my cage for a while. And I was like, maybe I do want to do this. And that's kind of, it was a very similar, and I did like an orientation with him, and I was like, oh, this whole thing makes sense. This is going to be great. So funny to hear your story.
I love that.
Darcy, what was it like going into chiropractic school with such a medical background too? Because you were essentially like training to be a medical doctor before that.
Yeah, so I would say because chiropractic school, like the first 2 years are the fundamentals are very much essentially the fundamentals of medical school. I found that to not be a challenge as much. But I will say the what was it? The credit loads, the credit units. Yeah. The number of units for a quarter was intense. I wasn't ready for that. because Cal was like semester, not quarter. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like 11 weeks, holy crap, like you blink and there it goes. But I will say the thing that that I actually found challenging was the hands-on part, because what my challenge was in undergrad, I realized I had anxiety, like, and I didn't really know what that meant. Like I was having panic attacks in lab, and I was like, I literally just need to put this piece of paper in the speaker, but for some reason I cannot do it right now. My hands are shaking. I was just like, what is this going on? And so I found that out from seeking help with some mental health professionals in my undergrad. And so I continued to get that support through chiropractic school, because I still had challenges a little bit, but I was at the time I had some medical prescription support with it. But I still found like this new edge, which was like, holy crap, this profession is hands-on. So obviously we need to work on each other. But I am freaking out anytime any of these classmates touch me, because I'm like, I don't know them. They're strangers. Like I just started having a lot of triggers from a lot of like sexual assaults that I've dealt with, and also just like physically feeling unsafe in my body. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I was freaking out about that. And like there were times where I was like, okay, I just need to step out. I need to go take a break. Like I need to go breathe, walk around outside, wash my hands, just like try to get some kind of sensory safety input back in my body. But really none of that. It was just like kind of like shoving the trash can down. Like it's like it's full and like something needs to shift. And so I was just kind of like just open-ended questioning, like, okay, like what do I need to do to move through this? Because I've never really been a quitter. If I don't like something, like I kind of know and I just don't really get into it. But I was really like, crap, like, can I do this? Like, is this how it's going to be in practice? Like, oh my gosh. But we had weekly seminars, and at the seminar, there were different chiropractors or different people related to the profession. And so there's this lady who came, and she was a graduate, and her name is Dr. Jeannie Kakazaki. And she was just like, I don't know, she was just like beaming to me, because I was like, oh my gosh, whatever. There's something about her that I like. And also, since I was really only in my second quarter, we were learning about the different techniques of chiropractic. Like, oh, this is Gonstead. Oh, this is BGI. Oh, this is CBP. And then, oh, this is network. And I was like, oh, what's going on? I was like, that looks cool. I don't know what that is. So that same week, Dr. Jeannie was speaking, and she was like, oh yeah, like I specialize in network spinal. I was like, oh my gosh, she does the thing. She's my girl. And so I like reached out to her to like book, because I also was reading on her website. I was like, oh cool, this helped her with PTSD. I was like, oh, she could probably help me. Like, oh my gosh. I was like, she's the one I've been looking for. And so I feel like my turning point to really starting to feel like I could really having that confidence and I guess just like self-containment or self-embodiment of like, I could be a chiropractor, was when I started to get work with her. And so like up to that point, it was like the academics were not really an issue. Like Berkeley's a hard place to get a degree from. So I'm like, okay, I lived through that. It was basically like a 4-year hazing experiment to get into another one. That was chiropractic school. And then, so the academics, I was like, okay, I can kind of figure out how to get through this. But just like the hands-on part was like my big edge. And I'm really grateful I was able to find some help.
Yeah, that's such a like, we don't even realize how different those sides of the coin are, from the academic piece to the actual physical application of what it is. And I remember looking at chiropractors who kind of were in practice, or we'd meet, and you're like, you know, when you're a patient, if you will, or a client of a chiropractor, you just see the outcome, right? Like you don't even take into consideration like what was it like to first put a thrust into somebody's cervical spine, right? Like nobody goes to that place with that person because they're carrying it. But there's so many of those in between steps. And it's interesting to hear that academic side of like, oh, I'm an academic. I can achieve, I can get through all the work. And then they're like, oh, here's this new thing that we're going to challenge you with. And you're going to use your physical body to start to do this. So did you get under network care pretty early in that chiropractic development process? It sounds like that was toward the beginning of the program that you were introduced it.
Yeah. So let's see. I started in 2019, and it was like January was my first quarter. And then so my second quarter started around like May. So it was like, yeah, my second quarter, I got into network and was like, what is this world I just stepped into? But I'm into it.
Cool.
And yeah, so like with that, I mean, it was such an interesting time too, because I remember like I remember doing my intake with Dr. Jeannie and doing like the care plan agreement. And I was just like, okay, this is like, it's a chunk of change, it's a chunk of time. But, she seemed like she got a lot of great results from this. So like, what do I really have to lose? Because the alternative is to continue to struggle with the actual job, with the actual components of being a chiropractor. And so it was interesting because I really didn't notice much. Like I actually, when I reflect on my first like round of care, if you will, I didn't realize how disconnected I was from my body. I was just like, okay, she's saying I'm doing things on the table. She's saying I'm doing great, but like my rib still hurts. So can you adjust my rib? And she was really gracious. So she always met me where I was at. So it's like sometimes we do a little activator, but it really wasn't until like kind of near like the 6 to 9 months range where like I just had a huge shift. Like my whole baseline of like my sensory experience changed. And in between that, there was like a gradual process of like, okay, cool. Like I was on 2 medications and I was like, okay, I'm noticing I don't need to take my one to help me sleep, because most of the time, if there's one medication, you need something else to balance out the side effects of that one, and etc. So I noticed, I was like, cool, I can sleep. And she didn't tell me to like, stop taking anything at all, but she just was like, okay, this is where you're at. And I remember I told her in the office, like, oh, hey, like I stopped taking this one thing because I can sleep and like I don't wake up like freaking out. And she was like so excited for me. And then over time, got to that new point of that baseline change and was like, okay, like I started to have another reassessment about how I really wanted to live my life. And at that time, I was still kind of having an internal struggle with like, okay, like I don't feel safe in my body. I'm kind of escaping through like partying or whatever. Yeah. And then I realized that to a point where I was like, oh crap, this is actually like not sustainable long term. Like I actually, what was it? I actually had a blackout and like woke up in the hospital and was like, I don't even know how I got there. I don't even know where my car is. Like, I don't even know anything other than I'm not with my friends right now. And I was just kind of like, holy crap. Like, I needed to like change how I like relate to my life, relate to my body, and relate to like the inevitable challenges that come up, including stress. And so in that time, I was actually I was hanging out with some friends, the same friends I went out with, but one of their roommates was like, oh, why, like, you ever thought about like just kind of getting off all your medications? And I was like, I don't know. They told me I'd have to be on it for the rest of my life. So like, I don't know what that means to get off of it. But he was like, well, if you like change some of your like lifestyle things, like how you eat, like, like exercise and like get regular care. He wasn't even a network person, but just regular chiropractic. He was like, some things could shift for you. And I was like, okay, that's like one little seed. So I was like, okay, interesting. Let me just, have that in the back of my awareness. And then I remember the last prescription I picked up, the person behind the counter, he was actually surprised that I was picking up that medication. I think what was it? It was like sertraline, like it was like an SSRI. And he was like, why are you taking this? You don't seem like a depressed person. I was like, I don't know. They told me I have to be on this for the rest of my life. And he was like, you can wean yourself off. I'm pretty sure he probably should not have been saying this. Probably illegal. I don't know. But he was just like,
You don't have to say his name.
Yeah. He was like,
great compliment.
right? Totally. He was like, oh, you can like wean yourself off. And I was like, oh, this is like new information to me. He's like, yeah, so you just start with like weeks at a time, like just do like a little bit and then a little bit less, a little bit less. And I was like, okay. And so like this is not under any kind of like medical supervision or guidance or any of the things that people are standardly told to do, standard methods. I was just like, well, I don't know. I had this one person tell me I could probably get off of it. Had this other person tell me I could get off of it. I'm like, I already got off one of the two with this network thing. So I was like, okay. At the time too, it was like COVID just hit. So like things were shutting down. I was like, okay, well, like the day-to-day activities of the world are shifting. So I was like, okay, I could have some more time because I think I was talking to anyone about it? I don't know. I think I just had this inkling of like, okay, it's gonna be a weaning process. So any kind of withdrawals may be a lot. So I was like, well, I have this opportunity with classes being online, people not sure when we're going back. And also I was like, I probably have more time to work out, do some healthy things. So I was like, well, let me just like start to see. And so I feel like the beauty in that experience was like, yeah, the world was like a scary place for numerous reasons. But also I was like, cool, I have this time to like rebuild myself in like an actual full presence. And so I definitely was not enjoying everything about the weaning process, but I do remember at that same time, ironically enough, where was I going? I was going to a chiropractic seminar out of California because California was like, especially the Bay Area was like non-existent as far as social activities. So I was like, okay, let me go be social in another state because that's where we can do things. And so I was at a seminar with some of my friends. And so I noticed he was also into network. And so he was about like maybe like a year and a half ahead of me. And I noticed he was reading this book. It was a sacred geometry book. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, I wonder what that's about. Little did I know he was like an initiate in the mystery school, but like I was interested. And then
at that time, you were at school still? You were still in school at that time?
Yeah, I was still in school. So this was like 2020-ish. So like it was my second year out of the 3.5. And so yeah, so it's 2020, things were locked down and was still going to seminars because I don't know, every chiropractor student's a little different, but I was kind of in the line of, okay, I don't want to go to every seminar under the sun because this is not my money that I'm using to pay for these seminars, but I also want to explore things. And so I was exploring a seminar and yeah, so at that time I was weaning off and then sacred geometry book. And then, so I was basically, I think at this point where I saw that my friend reading the book, I was like basically done, but I just still felt like a little weird because I was like so used to having an inhibited expression and state. But I was like, okay, I feel like a little nebulous. Like it was kind of a little weird. But I also felt like my stress tolerance had grown at the same time. And so ironically enough, I got a Facebook invite from the same friend about a sacred geometry class. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, let me just sign up. I was like, I don't know who this lady is, but it looks like it's a cool class. My friend was reading the book. That's a cool friend. Let me just go. And so paid my deposit. Aaron Wallace, who's my guide, actually.
Yeah. She's a great friend of mine. I love Erin. She's amazing.
Who was the
Trevor Peterson.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So he was like one of my, because he also is a network doctor as well.
Yeah.
And so he sent me the invite. I sent the deposit, and like, oh my gosh, that day for that class, I didn't even hear my alarm. Like, I think the class started at 10. I was like, crap, it's like 10:30. And I was like, oh my God, it's like 30 minutes away from me. I was like, I don't even think this lady's going to let me in. I was like, maybe I should just like call it a loss and not go. But something really told me that I should go because I just felt like this pull. And so I drive over there and I'm like, okay, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. And then she just kind of gave me a little tidbit about the things that they had covered before, and then took the whole class. And I was so interested in it because I was like, wow, okay, I could use these keys to create a container. Cause at this point I was like feeling so nebulous. Like I was just like, I don't really like, I just felt like there was no container for like my sense of self really. And so I was like, wow, okay, I can use these keys. Very cool. And then so she told me about the mystery school from that point. I was like, okay, it's a sacred geometry class. I didn't really associate it with the lineage or the mystery school. I was like, I don't know, it's just this lady, this Facebook, sacred geometry. That's like all I put together. um, and then so yeah, she was like, oh well, you can do this thing. It's called like an empower thyself. Like, you get 10 times more the light, 10 times more protection, and all you need to do is get a life activation. And I was like, oh, what's that? And she's like, oh well, whoever sent you to this class could do it for you. Like, who was that? I was like, oh, Trevor. She's like, oh yeah, he could do it. I was like, oh, I didn't know he could do these things. Interesting.
How was your experience with the life activation? What was that like?
Yeah, so like I had no idea what to expect because yeah, it's just so funny because like in hindsight I'm just like my like awareness of things was just very like narrow. So it's just like, okay, I don't even know what this is. It's just something that this lady who taught a class I liked told me I should check out, and I can do this other thing if I do it. And so I was like thinking, I was like, okay, do I need to wear anything? Like, do I need to bring anything? Like, what is like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I was just trying to I was getting really mental. I wanted to be prepared.
Really helpful because people do that kind of thing. They're
Yeah.
like, I didn't come to meditation because I didn't know how I should dress. I didn't know where I was going to be seated and what was going to be asked of me. And I didn't come to that session because it's like that's a real thing. So to hear it from you, it's really funny. Sean just told me to meet him in his hotel room. And I thought that was really weird, but it worked out okay.
We're going to bring a lot more light.
That's so funny. I mean, it's like, yeah, I guess that's the unknowns, right?
Yeah.
The unknown variables. And so yeah, so I was meeting Trevor at his house, and like I'd never been to this place before either. So I was just like, I don't even know where this guy lives. I don't know. It's a chiropractic house. I guess I should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more vetted. And so yeah, I was just like, it was interesting. I came into the space. I was like, oh, cool. It's like, it just felt nice. I felt like it reminded me of the feeling how I felt in that geometry class. And then he was like, oh, you did the geometry. You want to do your symbols? I was like, cool. Yeah, why not? So that felt cool just to kind of really feel like I was a part of that space too, to utilize the tools that I gained. And like, I just felt like it was like a deep, like semi-sleep. Like I remember like standing and kind of like, okay, wow, there's a lot of things happening, but like, I don't know what's happening. And then sitting down for the activation part, I was like, oh my God. I was like, my chin and my head hurts. I need an adjustment after this because it's a long time. And so, but after that was huge. Like because I do life activations myself because I was like, this is awesome. And so I always like to share what my experience was for people because I feel like, I mean, that's just how it felt for me. I felt like life felt like my phone, like using the analogy of a phone and like it on the lowest setting of brightness. I felt like the brightness got turned up and I was like, whoa, like things are like alive. Like there's an aliveness, there's a bright, like there's more, like my awareness like grew. And I also was like, felt like my little Eeyore cloud got lifted. Like I was like, cool. Like I feel like things are brighter and I feel more optimistic in a way that I was just kind of really struggling to find and connect with. And then I think like a week or two later, then I got initiated with Aaron. I just was like, I don't know. I was like doing this thing. They just happened so fast. I was like, okay, did the class, got the activation, got initiated. And then like 2 months later, I was like, okay, I'm doing Kabbalah. Like, I was like, it's just off to the races.
Wow.
And during such a crazy time too, like during COVID, what an amazing time to get redirected into more positivity.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I felt like it was like heaven sent because like I was just really like kind of being gung ho about like, okay, I want to like be healthier. I want to have like just a better sense of health, because I was kind of having the sense of like, okay, like if I want to help people, I should try to help myself a little bit, because I just kind of had this feeling that, not that anyone's perfect, but I just was like, my choices and my health level were just not really where I wanted it to be. And I was like, okay, like chiropractic has this promise of like this innate intelligence that can heal, and like it knows what to do, and there's like the wisdom of the body. And I was like, okay, well, like what's my relationship with that? Like how can I connect to that more? Like and also was like, so exploring that with like my whole weaning process, and then also being more so like I guess like introduced to the light. It was just like a whole new catapult of like progress with all those efforts. Because like, yeah, it was like a really, I mean, I was in the Bay Area, so it was like you're walking outside by yourself, like no one around you, and someone's yelling at you across the street to put a mask on. It's like, dude, like I don't, this is weird. So like that's kind of like the level of like overall collective fear. And so in a lot of ways, like I don't know, I just think it's kind of like hardcore to like, I guess, embark on like a process of like self-discovery and self-mastery in the midst of like this like collective global panic. And not that it wasn't warranted when people didn't know, but then after a certain period it just started getting like questionable in terms of what and how things were being enforced, in my opinion. And so yeah, I'm just like super grateful. Like it was really just like those curiosity threads, I guess, of like, okay, I'm noticing this thing, like whether it's just like, okay, there's something in my life internally or externally that isn't quite where I would like it to be. And just starting to like ask those questions of like, okay, like, what is it that I want to do? I know I want to help people. How do I want to help people? Okay, I know I don't really want to like feel like my mental health is like a shackle. Like I really want to feel like I can thrive. And so that also just like led me to getting more connected with my body, with the network, and then also just like being more curious about just like spatial relationships, in the sense of like, oh, I would love to be able to feel like wherever I go I feel safe, not just because I'm telling myself that through affirmations, but just like on an energetic physical embodiment level, just be like, no, like I'm good. And so I feel like in the process of asking those questions, I found myself receiving opportunities to get to some answers, and so that's been really cool.
Great. When you were still in school when you started doing all this work, that's correct? Like, did you notice a big shift with how you were experiencing working with like chiropractic clients? And then, how is that what's been your experience having these tools and working with people and helping people along the way?
Yeah, so I definitely was still in school. Like it's interesting, like, so I was in school throughout the lockdown period, and so from 2020 to like mid 2021 was where things were kind of like, I guess, just a little lock and key of like, okay, you can't go into a restaurant without like your card or whatever. And so in school it was just like interesting too, because um yeah, we had all the arrows and things. It was so wild. But there was like kind of like two, like more or less like two schools within the school. Like there were the people who are like, okay, things are locked down, I'm just gonna like take some time off, maybe go like work in an office somewhere. And there's people who are like, oh, hey, cool, we have more time because we can be anywhere in the world and be on class because it's online. So we can go to other places. And so I was definitely in the latter of like, okay, cool, like classes are online. Like, how can I continue to um, dive more into some of like, I guess, dive more into the the causes behind innate, I guess would be the way I could say it. Because I was just like, okay, we're talking about like innate. These green books have like a lot of things about energy, but like I want to know more about that because that's like a big word. And so in working with people, I did find myself being more like I struggled with sensitivity in the sense of it kind of formulating as anxiety, but I found that in grounding with the tools from the lineage, as well as just like committing to being connected to my body more with like caring for myself, I noticed that there was a lot of gifts within those sensitivities. Like I was able to notice things that weren't necessarily like super like spoken. So like working with people, I felt like I was able to connect with them more deeply in terms of like their own health goals and also just like whatever, like, yeah, just connecting them to more with their health goals and then also like what parts of their body really needed to be addressed. Like I found myself getting more clear, I guess like kind of like precognitive like connections in a way that I really couldn't connect with before because my physiology would just respond in like a stress response of like, oh my gosh, like they were feeling too much. Like I remember I was telling a colleague, I was like, yeah, I feel like I was like, I don't know, there's just like there's working with people, like, when you're laying on the table, it's like, okay, you're kind of like like, at least my experience, and I'm sure people can relate, it's like you're kind of surrendering to this person who's going to take care of you. And it's like, okay, like, hoping that they have your best intentions in mind. And also, there's also that dynamic of like communicating, like nonverbal and verbal communications, I guess. And so I noticed that with that, I found like I was able to connect with people through their body with in ways that they may not necessarily have verbalized. So like, for example, I remember one of my patients in the clinic when I was an intern and in clinic, and I was just like, hey, are you angry? And she said nothing about this, but she's like, oh yeah, I'm like so pissed off at my sister because like whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was able to actually like help her connect with that on a somatic level, because like just like the energy and the vibration of it just felt very palpable to me. And then after, she had a great adjustment. So I just felt like it took the mechanical aspects to a deeper level because there were these like subtleties that were also being blended into the work with people.
And what an incredible way to help people like cope with difficult feelings, right? Like, because when we talk about anxiety and things like that, often people don't just have no idea what to do. It tends to be either like medication, I think, or addiction in some type of form. Whether it's somebody's like addicted to like even work, or whether it's alcohol or weed or anything like that. It's just a way to take themselves out of the present moment. And then we can have different medications which kind of dull the senses too. And it's just so cool that your journey has been like the opposite. Like, while the world was probably at its most anxious time, you were coming off it, you were letting go of all the stuff that actually suppressed it, and then owning your energy in a totally different way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's really like I'm really grateful for those little seeds that were planted because yeah, I mean what it was there was a was that DD or BJ? I was like, oh, you never know how far something you think or say or do will impact the world really. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's like thinking about that too, like it's easier to kind of to not change in a way.
Yeah.
Like even for example, one of my practice members today, she's really used to traditional chiropractic, but I was like, hey, like we're gonna go on this journey together. And I'm not super like dogmatic in my practice of like, okay, I'm a network doctor, we're only doing network. It's more like, hey, where are you? Are you used to traditional chiropractic? Maybe we need to blend a little bit so your nervous system can kind of recalibrate to this new depth of sensitivity. And so I just kind of fell into like as we were starting, I was like, hey, like anything I need to know before we get started. I just had a sense that she wanted to share something. She's like, I'm just a little apprehensive because I'm really used to like, the traditional chiropractic stuff, getting my massage and my adjustment. So I'm just a little unsure about what I don't know. And so just like, hey, the subtleties, will grow over time in the sense of really noticing the changes. But also like wanting to also just acknowledge too is like, yeah, like, you know, we'll do a full session and there's a couple of things. One, I notice after a full entrainment, people tend to be easier to adjust. Your body will actually be more receptive to it. And then also too, you might feel like you don't really need that. Your body, our goal is to help the body learn how to regulate those stress patterns on its own. And so with that, I feel like, yeah, I think my point with that was the anxiety was like, um, I think it's like also even just like withholding of expression. And so like being able to have someone who can just take a moment to just like check in can make a big difference in a person's like healing process.
Absolutely. I love network care. I had my roommate in chiropractic school was he was studying network. He was getting really into it. Homer Johnson. So,
Oh, Homer! I love Homer. Yeah,
we
he's
were
in
roommates
Texas.
for like 3 years or something like that, in Texas. And when he was like getting into it, I would go with him to see his network chiropractor, and then I'd get network from Homer as well. And I really enjoyed the technique. And the best adjustment I've ever had in my chiropractic history as a patient was from Donnie Epstein. I was just by him one time, and it was like he is a true master. It was just absolutely incredible experience. So yeah, I think it's an amazing technique, and especially when somebody brings the level of energetic awareness that you do, because I think that is such a like it's just such a key part, and the mystery school does that so well. As far as I don't know any other system that helps open up somebody's expansion of the awareness of energy like the mystery school does.
Mhm.
So for you to combine those two things is super cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like Donnie is definitely awesome. It's like, wow, like he really put in over 10,000 hours to be to be at the level of mastery. And then also like I mean, and like I found, I think I mentioned this earlier, like with the studies of like the chiropractic philosophies, I was like, you know, there's just some things that are kind of I felt like we're missing. Um, and so I found that like within the lineage, it's cool that there's just like layers of frameworks to bring that more awareness in. And so like even for example, like I as a Kabbalist, with like completing the Universal Kabbalah, I just have like even just like connecting with the different aspects of that tree in the body of for people. Like some people are like, oh, I have like a left shoulder pain or I have right shoulder pain. It's like, okay, like how are our boundaries? Okay, like what's our relationship with anger? And the beauty of that too, it's like, well, network looks at the spinal patterns as like consciousness patterns, and it's like, well, what more like robust consciousness pattern do you get than the Kabbalah tree of life?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always found it really interesting. Like I practice predominantly upper cervical specific, and dot is like the hidden knowledge, which like is right at the level of like the brainstem, right between the connection between the supernals and the lower aspects of the tree. And it's like it's really, you start to see that metaphorically and mirrored from the tree and the supernal idea and the brain and the centers, and compared to the lower aspects of the self and the physical body. And it's like there's a lot of intercommunication. And I personally haven't really studied network, but actually the gentleman who is my coverage doc now, he's a retired network practitioner, and he also is pretty well versed in other techniques. And one of my initiates is a former they're like both retired network doctors. But the openness and the open nature of that technique and some of the similarities to a lot of the work that you were talking about, it does go a lot deeper. And even if you read D.D. Palmer's books, it almost sounds like he's describing something that's bridging the gap at times between like energy work and osseous chiropractic, if you will. So it seems like there's so many roots that migrate in. We're using the tree analogy from the mysteries and the understanding of the philosophy into the physical work that we do, which is pretty awesome, right? It gives you a greater appreciation for for both sides of that coin. Yeah.
And on that note too, D.D. Palmer, he was basically the first chiropractor. He was a magnetic healer, like, before his work as a chiropractor. And I think in chiropractic circles that maybe like minimized as far as the importance of what that actually was. But you're talking about somebody who spent like hours, not hundreds of hours, thousands of hours working with his hands to help heal people before understanding anything about chiropractic and bones and joints and anything like that. Then he was able to translate all that knowledge into something really great because of the foundation that he had.
Yeah, that's really true. I feel like, yeah, it totally is glanced over. It's just like, oh yeah, like he was like a magnetic healer, and then he found this school.
Yeah.
So then he fought his son in the middle of the streets of Davenport. There's a lot of chiropractic lore that's amazing, and I'd love to uncover even more. But it does have some of the roots that show up in network. So that's good. How do you combine the two? Like, how does your how does that work within your practice? We've both done it slightly different, but I'm curious, like, how that works in your practice and how you serve people.
Yeah, so I offer it to everyone, because like in the core of my being, I'm like, look, these are the two things that help me get to a whole new like level of wellness, like quality of life, and just like overall like inner peace. And I'm like, it's network and it's life activation. So I'm not necessarily at like, oh, if you see me, you have to get a life activation. But in my like an introductory like offer for people, I'm like, hey, if you do these things, we can also do this additional supportive modality that's separate from chiropractic. I found in my practice that people who do have a life activation, and even initiations, they move a lot faster through the seasons with the network. So in network, it's like there's 3 seasons. There's like a season to discover, and that can be like equal to like winter. It's like things aren't really happening. There's like a lot of dormancy, and then there's like transform, which is like could be like summer. It's like, oh, things are like hot, like things are moving, and like it can be a little uncomfortable. But it's also like this is where like the iron is the fire is hot, and like the sword's being like melded. And then there's like awaken, which could be kind of like that spring, that first little bud that opens up. And then there's like integrate, which is kind of like in between any of those, like say like a hot summer day or like a cold summer day. And so those seasons, like they're associated with strategies that the spine, like the person's nervous system is learning. So it's like, okay, how like the body, so there's like the different levels of innate intelligence. So it's like there's like a baseline level of survival, which is like, okay, am I breathing? Is something going to kill me? Can I eat? Can I like excrete? Can I reproduce? Like those are just like foundational like Darwin like things. And then it's like, well, we're more robust like organisms as humans. So it's like we're really not meant to be at a baseline level of survival, but we do need those as like components of like our evolution into like our physicality. So it's like a lot of times people who come in and they're like early discover, but then they get a life activation and initiated, and it's like, okay, like we don't really need so much time to get those strategies of like, okay, your breath is really connecting. It's like, okay, your breath is connecting, now your muscles are engaging, and all that's happening at a much faster pace that that's like, okay, I mean, objective comparison, it's like, well, before, yeah, there's the aspect of like duration of care, but then there's also like the noticeable difference of how fast the body responds with those additional energies. And so I like to frame it as people get a more robust energetic body with the activation, and then they get 10 times of that with the initiation. And so I'm not currently a guide, but one of my good friends, Carla Clark, we kind of share the same building. So I'm just like, hey, you already know the address. Just come to, you could come to one of these events, meet someone. So cases like stranger danger, because whatever, anxiety, right, for people. but I do notice a noticeable difference, and like ironically enough too, like I mean, I can't entrain myself. I'm not at that level of skill. So I mean, I do get care from other providers, and they're also like, oh wow, like noticeable differences in terms of like the efficiency of the nervous system and how the body responds to the cues like so much more efficiently and quick that um it's like a little bit on like the higher end of the probability curve, I guess. And so I always like to tell people that they'll get better results with the activation. And then also too, like something that I think is like really beautiful. It's like, well, if for whatever reason you need to move, you decide to go to Bali, I don't know, and you're no longer in San Diego to get care, this thing will continue to work with you for the rest of your life. And so it's like if you really want to make the most out of like our time together, I'd recommend doing this because there's a good amount of people in the world who can also offer it, but just like that statistical odds of like finding them and etc. Just like it kind of makes it a little bit less likely. And so, but even with that, I find that a lot of people go forward with it. Like in my practice, I'd say like maybe at least like 3 out of 4 people, maybe like a lot of people do get the activation. The initiation's a little bit less, but they're ready for it when they're ready for it because they got the prereq done at the very least.
Yeah.
One of the amazing things with the initiation, which is what's done when somebody does the Empower Thyself class and the life activation, I think is it just allows the person to move so much energy, especially initiation, like their ability to just move energy is massively expanded. And Bill and I both, we practice more like hands-on, or not the network's not hands-on, but more like traditional chiropractic, if you would. And with that, the amount of stress that we see like leave somebody's body, because people are carrying around so much mental and emotional stress, it's often due to this like unprocessed energy in their system. And when they have like life activation and empower thyself, like those channels are open, the debris is cleared, energy can move a lot faster. And then it's just like this physical stress is no longer in their system. And I'm sure with network, it's just so amazing to do that too. But it is such a practical piece that really aligns with chiropractic to help people remove those stresses that are so much affecting our physical body.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in the network lens, it's like, okay, Donnie likes to say it's like all energy and information. And so it's like, well, before anything becomes information, it's energy, kind of like frequency, vibration, tones, and all that. And so with that, it's like, hey, like if you have like energetic backlogs, whether it's stuff from like past stuff that has like residuals that you haven't really let go or integrated, or even just like information overload, like we have so much information going on a daily basis, and that's not like really integrated, then it's like, okay, cool, well, now the body is just gonna like find a way to like adapt to it that may not necessarily be integrated in an efficient way. And so yeah, it's like really cool that with those additional supports, it's just like there's just it moves so much faster. It's like kind of like either Internet Explorer versus like Google Chrome or something.
Totally. Absolutely.
It's awesome. Yeah, very good. Internet Explorer. I haven't even heard that term for a while. Going totally back.
So, Dr. Darcy, where are you practicing exactly? Would you be able to share how somebody can find you if they'd like to work with you?
Yeah, totally. So I'm practicing in San Diego. So San Diego County is a pretty wide region, but I'm more so like in closer to San Diego proper, near like Bankers Hill, downtown Hillcrest. And my practice name is Source Connection Chiro Light. Chiro and Light, but my website doesn't have the end. I don't know. It just didn't work out for the URL. I mean, I picked that name really because I'm like, well, what am I offering people? I'm like, I'm offering them chiropractic and light services. And so like, it's all within the umbrella of wellness. And so That's why I really like to provide that to people when, it's there for them should they choose. And then I'm mostly active on Instagram. Like my chiropractic page is source connection underscore chiro light. And then my personal page is Dr. Darcy White. And yeah, I mean, those are really the three avenues would be my website and either my business Instagram page or my personal Instagram page.
Would you just say your website name one more time?
Yeah, source connection, chiro light. It's all one word, .com. And it's under renovations right now currently. So like, excuse the, the unfinishedness of it, but it's getting upgraded. So, yeah, we'll stand by, but, it'd be really cool when it's complete.
Oh, that's so cool.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining our show, sharing your light and your connection to two aspects of or multiple aspects of the art that you provide. And we always it's always amazing to meet with other chiropractors to just even hear your story. Whenever we talk with somebody, I'm always amazed with how many similarities that I actually have with the individual of how they got into chiropractic and into the work beyond with the mystery school and the tools that it provides. But it's so important, I mean, as practitioners, Sean and I always talk about how it's so in your face of how these tools really can help somebody to best serve, because at the end of the day, no matter what people are doing and what healing profession they provide, it's we're all looking to do our best. And I personally hadn't found the tool that really does as well as the mystery school tools. So it's great to hear how they're working in your life as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it is really cool because, it's like providers too. It's like a core belief of mine is like I can only help someone as far and as deeply as I helped myself. And it's like I'm a big advocate of continual growth and evolution and progress. And it's like I want to embody that myself. And so with the lineage and the tools, it's like it's so it's just so awesome to see like the quantum changes that you can't really like plan like because they're so big, and so I'm really grateful to be able to share appreciation for those tools that we share, and also continue to offer that to the public so people who are ready can also get some really good positive changes in their life.
I love it. It's been such an honor having you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks too.
Yeah, yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you all so much for joining us.